Hello and welcome back. I'm ShyWizard. Going to do part 3 of the barrel whiskey placeable map import FS17 tutorial. Don't know what else to call it. This has been quite a long sort of session, which is why I've split it up into 3 parts. Basically to sort of go over what I've done. First part, or part 1 of this video playlist, was to streamline the 2 mods, because in my opinion the original setup of these 2 mods that I downloaded, you may be able to find ones that aren't quite so de-optimized, or whatever you want to call it, a lot of extra stuff that was not required by the mods themselves in the folders and all that. You may be able to find some cleaner ones, but these are the ones I chose to go with and whatever else. So yeah, so part 1 was to streamline the mods before they were imported into the map, and then obviously part 2 to bring them into the map itself, but they are both running on the Fabric script. What I want to do though in this video, part 3, is to convert both of them over to mCompany, or at least attempt to do so. So hopefully I can figure something out here. I've done this a few times, but it is kind of one of those things that I have to maybe go into game a few times, get errors, and then go through errors to fix what I've not done right. I've put perhaps maybe a line of text in the wrong place, and so on and so on. Now the reason why I want to do this, because with the original setup video that I did for the water storage, which was partially converted over to mCompany, and then I did a video on that to complete it with the mCompany graphic. That's kind of what I want to do with these 2 mods, and then set them up with the mCompany graphic and whatever else. So I would need to obviously first of all convert them to mCompany, and then include the graphic part as well. So with that said, I'm going to leave the screen and everything. Normally when I do an mCompany conversion, I delete the screen and all the other parts, because it's not really required, because you have the mCompany graphic show up as soon as you get into the interactive triggers, so that kind of becomes a little bit defunct, but that's okay. We'll keep it there, so it kind of hopefully limits what I have to change in the mod and everything else. So luckily, because I've obviously got a mod in here which is mCompany graphics set up already with all the appropriate scripts and whatever else, I can take some parts from there and then bring into these other 2 mods. Obviously if you haven't got that, then you'll need to kind of work with it a little bit differently, but hopefully what I'll be able to explain will make it clear to you guys what you need to add in and all the rest of it. So first of all then, if we actually look at the barrel and the whiskey mods that I brought in part 2, we have the onCreate mod onCreate fabric script. Well, obviously we want to change that over to mCompany, so I'm going to need to change the onCreate section in the user attributes here so that it actually looks for the mCompany script, not the fabric script. So like I said, I've got the water storage one here which has already been set up with the mCompany script in mind, so I can just take that information directly from there and then bring into both of these with a copy and paste. But it is pretty straightforward there. Just put in the mod onCreate.mCompany factory. It must be spelt with the uppercase and lowercase letters in the right place and all the rest of it. Tab across, and I will do the same with this one while I'm here. So we'll change that one over to mCompany as well, tab across and lock that in. So again, mod onCreate.mCompany factory. Also obviously I want to bring in the graphic side of things, so I'm going to add in the user attribute here, and luckily again I've got this one here so I can refer to it. So we have mCompany graphic XML. So if I just do this one first, create my new user attribute, so mCompany graphic XML, again with the uppercase and lowercase letters in the appropriate places. I'm going to create this as a string, and then like my original one, I put this in scripts and then mCompany. So I'm just going to take the same sort of, keep it all in the same folder and structure it in that sense. So what was that again? Memory's so bad. So I've got maps, scripts, and then mCompany. So again, what I could do is take it from this one and potentially copy it and paste it, but I just want to type it in so you guys can see me typing it in here and everything. So maps, scripts, mCompany, Let's make sure that the C is uppercase. So map scripts, mCompany, and then this particular one will be barrelfabric.xml. So I'm just going to keep it nice and simple and name it all the same so I know what it is and everything else. Even though it's going to be using the mCompany script now, I'm just going to keep the name the same so it keeps it all, you know. I know that this, when I look back at this, I will be able to tell straight away that that was a fabric script conversion because of the information I'm going to be putting in here and all the rest of it. Things like that for me, I just like to keep them in there so that I know what is what and all the rest of it. So we'll do the same with this one. I will just copy and paste this over for this particular one, just to keep things simple. So again, I'm going to go mCompany graphic just mCompany graphic XML, and then again with a string, so mCompany graphic XML, and we'll paste that into there and then put the / in, and then this one will be Whiskey Fabric. Make sure I spell it right. Whiskey Fabric.xml. Okay, so obviously I need to remember what I've called them, so when I create my actual XMLs, I name them the same, otherwise it won't find it, and then we'll be having some issues there with I don't think it will give any errors. It may do because it will possibly give an error saying it can't find that particular XML, or it may just not run. You won't get the mCompany graphic display in game. It may give an error, I'm not really sure. I can't remember if it does or not, but irregardless, if we get it right, then, you know, saves a lot of messing around and whatever else. So like I did with the water storage one, I want to change the triggers, the names of the triggers, and also the names of the inputs and outputs to something potentially, if I have to, that would be easier to set up in the mod desk. So for my input here for the barrel one, I'm just going to go _BF as in barrel fabric, tab, and then we'll just do the same with this one, _BF. And then if I look at my names for the input and output, so I've got a name of boardwood in that one and FAS in this one. That's fine, I could probably keep those as they are to try and link all of those into the mCompany graphic, because at the end of the day, when you're doing this and linking it to the mod desk, that's one thing of its own, but then you've got to link it all into the mCompany graphic as well. So if you have potentially several different mods on the map that all have a field type of perhaps maybe barrel, and they're named FAS, then all of those are going to be the same, so they'll display the same information in each one, and that's fine because it all joins together. There's no need to have different names because it's all got the same field type and whatever else. But then when you try and set up your mCompany graphic, you obviously want each graphic to be specific to that mod, so then it gets a little bit more complicated with the names, because perhaps maybe you want one of them to be called something different. You may have one or two of these mods on the map, so you might have two of these barrel creation mods. You might want to call it barrel 1 fabric, barrel fabric 1 and barrel fabric 2, and then have different names for each or whatever else. So you have to be a little bit more careful when you're creating your names to work with the mCompany graphic to display all the correct parts and all that sort of stuff. So okay, now I'm going to do the whiskey one, so we'll do this one, and again I'm just going to go _whiskey fabric, so WF, and then this one _WF, whoops, for whiskey fabric, and then we'll have a look at what we've got in here. So again, we've got FAS in here, maize, sugarcane, water, whiskey, and rum. We'll try and work with what we've got already here and then set that up appropriately. Might need to change the names there to work with the mCompany graphic, not sure at the moment. We'll just see how that plays out and then adjust things if we need to. The more mods you obviously get on the map, imported into the map using the mCompany graphic, then it becomes a little bit more complicated, because names, like I say, will need to be slightly different to work with each of the individual setups and whatever else, because otherwise you may get conflicts with them and all sorts of stuff. So we should now have those parts set up and everything else. So obviously I need to change a few things in the mod desk to start with. I need to reactivate my mCompany script and all the parts to do with that, because I actually deactivated it for the fabric scripts to be brought in. I didn't want to get conflicts between the two of them, so I deactivated them so that I could get the mods into the map and working. That was the main feature of that, and then obviously the conversion comes later. So I can delete both of those because I no longer require them, and I'm just going to then reactivate the mCompany stuff. So we'll just delete all of those and make those hopefully reactivated. There we go. So I've now got my mCompany factory and mCompany factory add-on reactivated in there. That's brilliant. So let's have a look what we've got. So if I take those two, make copies of those, make a couple of spaces here, paste those in, and then what I want to do is take these ones and put them into there. So input, and then we'll just type BF, that's fair enough. So we've got those, and obviously I want to change the names in here, so I could put whatever I want in here. Input, maybe, well, you could call it whatever you want. Let's go resources maybe. No, that's too difficult for me to spell. Knowing me, I won't get it right. We'll just put input and output, that's fine. Output, that'll be fine. And then I want to have all the other parts in here. So what have we got here? Boardwood, I think I've got that already. Boardwood, board pallets, that's fine. And then I've got FAS. So I haven't got that in here. So let's take this one and put that into there, and then we'll take the name from there and do like so. So this is going to be our barrel, so we'll put in there barrel like so. Again, I'm not going to be too concerned with the translations and all that sort of stuff. Getting it working is the first part, and then the translations can come later on if required. So we've got that. So that's the input and output triggers set up, and then we've also got the appropriate names for those parts. So that's theoretically that one all set up. Got my mCompany graphic stuff set up in here, and then we'll move on to this one. So I need to obviously have the input and output trigger WF. So we'll copy both of these again, make a couple more spaces. I tend to put a lot of spaces in things to start off with for testing, and then when I get down the road a little bit and everything is working, I will tidy it up a little bit and get rid of some of the spaces between everything. It's just easier when it's all separated like this as you go through it, in my opinion. You can then work with it a little easier and change stuff. You know, you're going to be looking hopefully at the right part. If it's all sort of mishmashed together and not separated like it is here, then it can be difficult to find it in amongst a lot of different inputs and outputs and all sorts of things like that. So that's those ones. Then we've got, again, FAS. I'm going to stick with that and see what happens. So we want maize. Have we got that? Nope. So let's make a copy of that one. We'll come down, put that in, copy that, and then we'll just put that into there like so. And we have our sugarcane, so I need to add that one in. So again, I can make a copy of this one and paste, take my name, sugarcane, and put that into there, and then I can just type that in. So we'll go sugar, whoops, cane. I'm not sure if sugarcane is one word or two, but we'll just go with that, that's fine. And then we've got Wazzer, so going to make a copy of this one, come down a line, or make a new line I should say, take that from there and do like so, and then I can just type over that water like so. Okay, so theoretically all of those parts will now be joined, so we can do our outputs. So we have whiskey, which is there, and then our rum, which is there. Hopefully that's spelt right. No, it's not. So I might need to, yeah, okay. So then what I'm going to do is create a couple more lines, and we'll do like so and like so. You might find that you've got a lot of what appears to have a lot of duplicates. That sometimes is the case. So we'll do like so and like so, and then I can just put that into there and that into there. So okay, we've now got hopefully all of that set up as we need it to be. Now I'm going to do something a little bit different with this one, because I want to add a pretty picture to the actual mCompany graphic. I've taken the mCompany graphic ponyhusbandry.xml from the Hofbergman map, because this particular one has the required parts. So I'm going to download potentially some textures. I'll just do a Google search and get ones that I like, and then we'll just go from there and make some changes and whatever else. So hopefully that will work. I'm just going to experiment with some bits and pieces, and I figured why not just do a video on it, bring you guys along, and then see if we can put something together that looks really good. So that is sugarcane lowercase. Just want to make sure I've got those correct. Yeah, that's fine. Maize, Fass. Okay, so we'll see how we work with all of those. So we'll do one at a time here and just go through it. So let's do the barrel fabric to start with then. So what I'll do first of all, I'm going to save the map. So I'm going to minimize this down, and we'll save the mod desk. And then I'm going to basically try and edit this to give me what I want. So we've got quite a lot of bits and pieces in here. Obviously this is to do with the pony husbandry. Again, going back to the AB water storage, if you've watched that, I'll just go over this again really quickly. We've got inputs and outputs, so you need to make sure that you put the appropriate parts for your inputs and outputs in the right places. If you need to add in more of one or whatever, then make sure that you make a duplication of an input if it's an input and an output if it's an output. I know it sounds silly, but I've done it myself, and I've made a duplication of the output because it says output here over here. I've not paid too much attention, and I've made a copy of that and then put the text in here for an input, and it ends up being an output, and then it causes a problem, and it takes a little while to then figure out what you've actually done wrong and all the rest of it. So I'm just pointing out inputs and outputs and all sorts of different things there. Just be careful which one you're duplicating to add in the next one and whatever else, because obviously with our barrel fabric we've just got one input, one output, but for the whiskey rum one, the whiskey factory, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 inputs and 2 outputs, so there would be potentially a little bit different. Now this, I've chosen this one because it's actually got 4 inputs and 2 outputs, so I figured it would give me what I needed to start with, and I could just change it accordingly. I want to have some sort of a header, so I'm going to create something that's going to work with that in the mod desk here. Don't need those anymore. Let's get rid of those because I've got the parts up here, so I can potentially work with that, hopefully. So let's create a new line in here, I think. So if I take this one, put a new line in there. Again, I'm just going to keep this really simple, so we'll just call this barrel fabric. And then for my name, I just put in there actually I'll just put barrel factory. There we go, that'll do, that's fine. You can come up with some fancy names, I'm sure, for all the bits and pieces that's going to show up. The actual size of the graphic, obviously, you know, if you put really long text in there and everything else, then that will potentially, you know, cover quite a large area of your screen. So you don't want it to be, you know, massive, I wouldn't imagine. A nice little graphic in the corner that's just going to pop up when you need it to give you information what you're going to need to see and all the rest of it, and not overdo it. So we'll copy that one and paste, and then I'm just going to change this one to whiskey fabric. Like so, and the phone goes yet again. So I'm just going to call this Moonshine Factory, that'll be fine. One day when I do these videos, I'll remember to actually put my phone on silent. Anyway, never mind. So right, we've got those into there. So I'm going to take the barrel fabric from there and then put that up into here. So that will be my header, which will then show, hopefully on screen, barrel factory. And my input trigger here for the barrel one, I've got input trigger BF, so I need to take that text from there and put into there. And then if we go back into here, I've got, for the input, I've got boardwood. So I need to just double check all of this and make sure it's all set up. So board's palette. Some of these names you may need to, you know, change and mess about with a little bit to work for you, but we'll just go with what we've got. So boardwood. That should be fine. And then the output one, we've got FAS, so I'm going to take that from there and put into my output. So we'll put that down here like so, and then for this one I can just delete all of those parts because I don't need them, and all of these parts down here because I don't need any of these, because I've just literally got an input and an output. So I need to change my output one here from the pony husbandry setup. So if we come back up to the output trigger BF, so I'll make a copy of that one and put that into there like so. Okay, so theoretically at this point I should now have my header of, well, it won't be barrel fabric because it will look here and it will then display the appropriate text, so it will be whatever I set it to, barrel factory, and then I'll have my input trigger BF, which I've just set up really simply to input and output for both of those. That's fine, I'm not really too fussed about that. You can come up with some fancy names, I'm sure, to, you know, maybe give it a little bit more whatever, but I can't think of the words at the moment. But yeah, so, you know, I'm just going to stick with simplicity at the moment and then try and get through it. Again, making videos now, you know, I could spend an hour here trying to come up with some fancy name, but that wouldn't really do you guys much good. I'm just going to try to keep things relatively simple. So I also need to put in a line for my placement holder here, so I'm going to just create another line. We'll just do this, put it down the bottom here somewhere. So we'll just put that into there like so, and I'll take the text from there and overwrite that, and then we'll just placeholder, and again I'm just going to get rid of the translation there. I don't need that for the time being, so we'll just go with that for now. If you don't put that in there, I think it gives an error, I can't remember, but because it's in the graphic, the XML, it's required. I think this has something to do with the HUD that I'm going to be putting in, the actual background picture and all the rest of it. If you don't put this in, then this gets a little bit confused and doesn't work properly, if I remember rightly. I've done this a few times, but I'm still learning this process myself, and it's not, you know, it's not again, words, not the simplest of things to kind of explain. I've done it a few times now and got my head around parts of it, but then I will try to do a conversion on a mod and bash my head against the wall because everything looks like it's in the right place, but for whatever reason it gives me lower stack errors and just will not work. So, you know, I'm still learning myself a lot of this stuff, but hopefully what I'm going to do in the video here will work first time, I'm sure. Probably not though, but we'll see. Right, so I'm going to rename this one. So we had in the mCompany graphic for this one was barrel fabric XML, if I remember rightly. Yeah, barrel fabric.xml. So I'm going to find a HUD and change that in a minute, but I just want to get the graphics set up this far, so we're going to save that. Barrel fabric, and I'll just save that to my desktop. So save. I've already got it for some reason, not quite sure why that is. Okay, have I already got? Huh. Interesting. Not quite sure why it won't let me save that, because it's an XML, so I think it's seeing the barrel fabric folder name there and then not allowing me to do it. Anyway, let's try that again. Barrel fabric.xml. That's better. Yeah, getting confused there, I think, because it couldn't save it because it was looking at the folder even though it was saving it as an XML, but never mind, whatever. So yeah, so I'm going to find a graphic to work with, and then I'll come back and we'll put that in and link it all together and whatever else. So I've looked on, I did a Google search and found this particular logo, which I quite liked, Rocky Mountain Barrel Company. So I'm going to work with this one. So what I will do is I'm going to resize it first of all, because it needs to be set up a certain way. You can do this 256 by 256, 512 by 512. Have a little bit of a play around with those, but I think they have to be certain. I can't remember what the actual equation is, or whatever you call it, but so you can have like 1024 by 512 or whatever, but it has to be a certain sort of arrangement similar to all of the other textures, otherwise I think it gets a little bit confused and doesn't work properly. So, but anyway, I'm going to set this to 256 by 256 because it's not going to be it doesn't need to be very big or whatever else. It's just going to be, you know, in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, so it's not too much of a, doesn't need to be anything special, just as long as it looks appropriate for the graphic and all the rest of it, and just adds a bit more of a sort of flair to it and whatever. I think that will be more than enough. So I need to save this, but I need to call it something else. You can see there it's called RMBC Logo 1. Just downloaded that off of Google. So I'm just going to call this what am I going to call this? I don't know. Let's just call it barrel. That'll do. I don't know. Can't think of names today. So we'll just call it barrel. That'll do for now. I'm going to save that. DXT5 no bitmap and save. Which is now on my desktop. That's fine. So we're going to the map folder, and I'm going to put this into scripts mCompany. So it keeps all the mCompany stuff together. So for the actual XML that we put together a moment ago, I need to obviously put that path file name in there. So I've got maps scripts mCompany. So I'm going to change all of that to match maps scripts mCompany. And now we'll just change this to barrel, like so. Okay, so theoretically then all of that should now link together. We've got our header, we've got our input and output set up, and the actual parts in here should be fine. Now I've not got in the previous video I did with the water storage, there was another line in here to do with the percentage and all the rest of it. I don't want that on this particular one because it's got it's registered as a piece, so it'll be just objects. So I just want it to give me a number and whatever else. So I don't want any of that. But what I will need to do, first of all, I'm going to need to put that into that folder, like so. Then I'm going to need to go back into the actual map because I need to add in a couple of extra parts to those inputs and outputs to designate the unit, like I did with the water storage one. We added the user attribute of the unit. Because this is going to be registered as a piece, it's going to be slightly different. Same user attribute, which will be unit, but which will be a string. But in here I'm going to put in piece. But it's not enough to just do that. You actually have to put in here, and I have to try and remember this, pieces underscore num, which needs to be an integer. Then you add that in, and that needs to be the same number as your capacity. So pieces underscore num as an integer, unit as a string with piece. I'm pretty sure that's right. I'll test that, and if I'm wrong then I'll change it, but I'm pretty sure that's correct. Like I said, I'm still learning all this stuff, so we just go through it as we go through it. So unit, which is a string, and that will be piece. And then the next one, what was it? Forgotten already. Pieces underscore num. So pieces underscore num as an integer, and then just take your capacity and put that into there like so. Okay. I really hope this works. I think what I'll probably do is test this one first before I get to the whiskey one. It's going to give me errors because obviously I've got the whiskey one in there and it's not set up correctly, but I want to, and that may stop this one from working as also. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm going to test it first and just see if this one I've set up correctly. I won't record that. I'll record the final finish, but if it does give me errors appropriate to how I've set it up and all the rest of it, obviously I'll try and explain what I did wrong. But I don't see the point in just going into game, showing you that I've got loads of errors and it's not working, and then come straight back out again. That, you know, it will take me a second or two just to go in and check it's working and then come straight back out again. So you know, that would be just a waste and add to what is more than likely going to be an extremely long video anyway. But hopefully I'll have success with that, and then I'll move on to the next one. Then I'll show you the completed project in game and whatever else. But I'm pretty sure I've got all that set up in there. So I've got my actual mCompany graphics or mCompany graphic XML linked. The actual path file name there I think is correct. I've got all that set up correctly. I've put all the parts in the mod desk for the appropriate inputs and outputs, the name, set up the unit, and I've also set up the actual pieces num, which is required if you're registering it as a piece. If you're going to register the unit as a liter, then that will not be required, and so on and so on. So I think what I do, like I say, is I'm going to just pop in the game real quick, test this one, and then we'll see what happens from there. Right, so I went into game real quick, and it is working. I have the graphic showing up, so I've got barrel factory, input, boards, pallets, and then the amount, and also I've got the output here of barrel with the amount. And you don't get the bars or anything like that, because, or at least I don't think so, because I've not got that part in the mCompany graphic XML. So it's just going to basically count up. Obviously, if you want the bars to go across and the rest of it, then you can include that. But for things like pallets and things like that, I don't think it's really relevant. The only thing I would say is the actual logo up here is really small and it's quite high up. So I want to bring that down and potentially make it bigger. This will be a little bit of sort of trial and error. You'll need to change the settings in the XML and then go back into game, check it, come back out, change them again, go back in, check it, because I don't know how it's worked out with the how it's placed in the sort of screen size. If I don't know if it's done by pixels or whatever else. So I just generally use the default from the XML that I've used and then just go in and change it. So if I actually close that down, I'll show you what I mean. If we go back into scripts, mCompany, go back into the barrel fabric XML here, we have the PNG here, and then you have the actual size and its position. So what I generally do is sort of just work with that. So I will possibly go up by 10 at a time. So I will change this to 14 and then this one to 17, and then this one here I'll sort of come down. So you've possibly got X and then Z, I think it is. So this one I would say was probably okay, but this one is not. So I would change this maybe to 33 and then try that and then go back into game and then see what happens. Obviously if it shoots across the screen in the wrong direction, I've changed the wrong one, but we just change some settings here, change some numbers, because I'm not quite sure what those numbers refer to. Obviously size, that's, you can just change that, but the position, I'm not quite sure how that's worked out on the screen, but I just generally change it to a specific, go down or up in values of 10 and then go into game, check it, come back out and change it again, and so on until you get it roughly around about right, and then just perhaps maybe change it by 5 and then change it by 2 and then change it by 1 until you get it exactly where you want it to be. So there's a lot of going into game, coming out, a lot of going into game, coming out, and just changing numbers here until you get it positioned where you want it to be. So I've made a few changes in that XML, and this is what I've ended up with. Nice sort of decal there to go with the actual graphic and whatever else. I could possibly position it a little bit lower and maybe get it integrated into this backdrop sort of thing, whatever you want to call it, but I think that looks okay. It's not too bad. It'll work for the video. You need to obviously play around with that. You might need to make the actual DDS bigger, so it'll be 512 by 512 or whatever else, if you want it to be a slightly higher definition. Now I've just taken a screenshot in game, which never tend to come out that well anyway, so I've not photoshopped it or anything like that, so it doesn't represent the quality that I'm seeing in game, is what I'm trying to say. So just need to work with it a little bit. If I close that down, I've changed a couple of settings in here, so my size I haven't changed, but I did need to bring it over a little bit because this was 92, so I changed it to 82, and obviously with the position here is 0.33. So like I said, these parts here, you'll need to just change the numbers and then go in the game, see what it looks like, make another change. But I would just recommend to go up in certain increments, maybe 5, 10, whatever, until you get close, and then reduce your increments down until you get down to, like, you know, go up by 1 at a time, so 17 would be 18, and so on and so on, or if you're coming down or whatever. But yeah, so now we've got this one completely set up and working. Obviously you haven't seen that working, but I didn't want to keep going into game, going out of game, recording that. So when I eventually get this finished, then we'll see the end product, hopefully, and go from there. So we'll move on to the next one then, which will be obviously the whiskey one. This one's going to be a little trickier because it's got a lot more inputs and outputs and stuff like that. So I'm going to go back into the map first of all, so I can work with what parts I'm going to need to look at and whatever else. It's okay working with the mod desk, but I need to obviously see which inputs and outputs and that sort of stuff. I may need to change some names to work with that and all the rest of it. So okay, if I then minimize that down for now, I'm going to use the Pony Husbandry XML again just to start with. I don't need that anymore. So we'll open this up again, and also the mod desk, because I need to change or add some parts into there as well. So I'll take the AB water storage one again. The other thing I needed to do was add in a line here for the unit underscore piece, because we added in the parts to do with the actual designation piece. It came up an error in the actual graphic and said it couldn't find that, so I needed to actually add that into the mod desk here and just put in the appropriate text that I wanted to see on the graphic itself in game. Not quite sure why you don't need that if it's a litre. If you put the actual unit in as litre, it doesn't need it, but piece as a unit, for some reason it does. Come across this a few times. Some mods that I've converted over to mCompany, it doesn't need it, and then other ones do. It's really weird how that works, but I've added it in and that fixed the problem. So, you know, you just need to add that into there to overcome that if you come across that problem. So let's get back to what I was doing before. So take a copy of that one. It's difficult to know where to put it all in so it actually makes sense with it, you know, with all the bits and pieces. Barrel fabric, whiskey fabric. Have I done it already? I may have already done it. Yeah, I did it already, didn't I? So don't need to do that. Forget that part. I did it already. I didn't think I did it, but I did. So we can take the whiskey fabric from there then and put into our header up there like so, and then we need to bring in our input triggers. So input trigger WF, which I can put in up here like so, and then the output one, we'll do that down here like so. Again, because all of these parts are going to be, well, some of them will be and some of them won't be, because I've got, what have I got? Barrel will be, maize won't be, sugarcane won't be, and water won't be. So this one will be a piece, but the others will be litres, and then this one and this one will be piece. In the unit register are registered as units, so we need to do that as well. So if we go back into here, this top one I'm going to leave as it is, and then the others I can leave as they are, because they will be with the actual percentage bar, because they'll be set up as litres. And then this one down here, I won't need that, so I can get rid of that, because these ones will be registered as pieces as well. Okay, so I've got that into there. So let's go through all of the inputs and outputs. So if I've done all the mod desks set up correctly, we'll go with the first one, which is FAS. So we can put that into there like so. And then the next one will be for maze. So we can put that one into there, like so. And then we will have sugarcane can go into there, and that will be litres, so we want the loading bar with the percentage and everything, that's fine. And then we have Wazzer, which will be this one, which will give us our display for water. Then we have our outputs, so I want whiskey in this one, so we'll do like so, and then the next one will be for our rum, so we'll change that one over like so. Again, I'm going to need to find a decal or whatever you want to call it, so I will find that and add that in a little bit. But all the rest of it should be set up okay, with our header, input and output triggers set up, and all the individual inputs and outputs and whatever else, well, all those parts. So hopefully that should work okay. So again, I'm going to save this. Again, I'm just going to call this moonshine.xml. Save. I can't remember what I set it up as into what did I set it up as in here? It needs to obviously match what we've got in here, so I set it up as whiskey fabric. Okay, that's fine. So I need to take that from there, close all of those down and change it over to that. There we go. Okay, so I've got that all set up in there. So again, I'm going to find a decal. I should have done this before really, but I'm going to find a picture to apply to this, and then sort all that out and then do that side of it. So again, I've got just a logo from the Google search. You know, this one's good enough, that's fine. Whatever, I've just did a quick search. I probably could find something a little better or whatever if I needed to, but that will work for me. So if I open this back up again, obviously I need to change the path file name to point to that. So map scripts mCompany, and then the actual name of the PNG, DDS, whatever, maps, scripts, mCompany, and then change that to Moonshine, maps, scripts. Good lord, I still can't spell mCompany. There we go, get there in the end. So hopefully again, like the first one, that went really well. All of these parts should link in and whatever else and do what we need them to do. So we've got that set up in there. Again, I'm going to need to probably change the size of it and play around with that, but again, I'll do that and then show you the end result and whatever. So I'm going to close that down. Before I actually go any further, I'm going to need to change all these parts in here. So this one is a piece, if you like, because it's a palette. So again, I'm going to need to put in the user attribute in here of unit string and then piece, and then again pieces underscore num, and that would be a integer, and then take the capacity and put into there like so. These ones, because it's maze and all the rest of it, these ones will just be liter. So string, whoops, string, and then just put in there liter, and do the same for these ones. String, liter, and unit, string, liter, and then these ones again will be piece, so unit, string, and piece, and then we need pieces underscore num integer, and put that into there like so. And then this one will be the same again, so unit string piece pieces underscore num integer, and then take that from there and put into there. Okay, so that all should now be set up okay and whatever else. So I'll save the map again, and I'll just pop into game and check where the decal is and everything else, and I'll make the appropriate changes and show you the end product, and hopefully we should have it all working and do whatever. Now what I could say, or what I would say here, is if you wanted to, with this particular setup over here, what you could do potentially is take your player trigger and then resize that, but because this screen is inside of this player trigger, if you expand the player trigger out, it's going to make your screen bigger as well. So this is why I said earlier on in the video I normally delete the screens and whatever else, because it then makes it so much easier to actually enlarge your trigger. If you want to have it somewhat similar to the whiskey one, the interactive trigger on that one is much bigger. It covers the entire mod, so anywhere I go around there it will show up my mCompany graphic, whereas this one will only show up if I'm in front of the screen. Again, similar to the AB water storage. So you have to kind of play around with those a little bit and see how you get on and whatever else. But for now, for the video and whatever else, I'm just going to keep it as it is. No big deal. We know where we need to go to get the information and the graphics show up and all the rest of it. So I'm just going to go with that and work with it. So like I said, I'm going to test the actual graphic and just check where that's going to be displayed and change those slightly to get it where I want it to be. And then hopefully once I've got all that set up, get into game and make sure they all work, and then complete the video from there, and hopefully complete the playlist. And then I'll be able to upload it all to you guys, and you can try it out for yourselves. So I've gone into game and had a look, and made a few adjustments to the mCompany graphic XMLs to hopefully get all of the displays in the right places and everything else, whatever, so it looks good enough, at least for the video. I mean, it possibly might want a few more adjustments, but while I was actually putting all the appropriate parts into the mods, because you don't need to watch me put all the bits and pieces into the mods to get them running again, because you've already seen that in part 2. So I was just going through all the triggers and making sure that it displayed all the appropriate parts and everything else. And what I did notice is when I was in the actual water trigger, water fill trigger, in the F1 menu, the information that was displayed wasn't quite what I wanted it to be. And I thought, well, I'll just come back into the map again and just have a quick look. And what I did notice in the whiskey factory here, under the liquid trigger, there's no name for the actual trigger itself. I know it says ShyWizard there, but that's just the name for the fill type. But what we need to do is actually name the liquid trigger, because if I go to the AB water storage and go to the liquid trigger there, it's actually got an L name, which designates what the liquid trigger is. So I need to set that up for this particular trigger, I believe, because that's not set up 100% correctly, I don't think. Well, I'm going to change it anyway and see what happens, because I'm not happy with what is displayed in the F1 menu. So I'm going to use the same, similar to what I've got here for this particular setup. So what I need to do is set up a new user attribute for the L name, and obviously that must be set up this exactly like it is there, L underscore name with a capital N. So I'm going to do that. So L underscore name, set this up as a string. If I actually take that from there and put into here like so, now what you do have to be careful with is duplicates, because they This could be possibly defined by the script or whatever else as a duplicate liquid trigger name, so you have to be a little bit careful with that. So what I'm going to do is just put a 1 on the end of it, but I will obviously then need to set that up in the mod desk. So what I'm going to do is go back into the mod desk here, and you can see here we've got what have we got? Load water start, drop water start, drop water. So if I take that one and that one and copy those and then paste them in, what I should be able to do is drop water, liquid drop water, is just put a 1 on the end of those, theoretically. I'm going to test that out and see what happens, but I'm pretty sure that should be okay like that, to try and prevent any kind of duplicate trigger names as an error that I might get. So I'm going to try that out and see what happens. But irregardless whether it works or not, I think what I'll do then is go into game this one final time. I'll hit record and we'll actually test the bits and pieces out and whatever else and make sure they all work and check that we don't get any errors. This may cause an error, I'm not 100% sure. I might need to change something there, but irregardless, I think I'm going to be completing the video in this last section once I get into game and all the rest of it. And I'll show you the mCompany graphic in game. I can quickly show you what I've set them up as in here. So if we go scripts, mCompany, the whiskey one, I've got obviously my path file name to the PNG, DDS, whatever, and these are the sizes that I've used and the positioning. And then for the barrel fabric, didn't change much there. That's the position that or the size I've set to, and the position I've set to there. So if you're copying along with this, you might want to set yours up to a similar sort of position and size. But you might not like where I've got it. I mean, like I say, I'm just not rushing, but I'm just getting it roughly where I'll, good enough for the video kind of thing. I hate to say that, but it might take me quite a few edits to get it exactly right, but it will be, again, good enough for the video to give you a direction to go in, hopefully. And what you need to change, reposition it and resize and all the rest of it. Anyway, so I'm going to save the map again and I'm going to get into game, and then we'll finish up just by checking everything works and whatever else. Right, so in game then, and as you can see with the F1 menu up, I didn't put the water in just yet, so I wanted to show you in the F1 menu there it does say now start unloading water. Before it was something like I can't remember, trigger water something like that, but it didn't look right to me, so I wanted to change that so it actually displayed something a little bit different. If I go R, it'll unload, and then it changes the text to stop unloading water. So by changing that or giving that user attribute the L_name user attribute, and then putting in the appropriate name and whatever else, and then setting that up in the mod desk, it's now giving me the appropriate text that I wanted to see. So I will complete this and put the water in there. What I will do is just skip around to my Mana 2 because I need to take the barrels from the barrel mod here. And if I just jump out, I'll show you the mCompany graphic in game. That's what I have. So we have the actual decal, or whatever you want to call that, Rocky Mountain Barrel Company, Barrel Factory, input, boards, pallets, which shows up pieces, and then the output is barrel, which again shows up as pieces. So I can take those from there. So that mod is all working. I'll quickly bring up the console extension here, and I've got some new updates available for Windows. Fantastic. So if I just scroll through this quickly, you can see there we've got no errors. It's registered all the appropriate parts and whatever else. Yeah, so really good. Pleased that it's gone as smoothly as it has. So I'll come around to here. I always forget that you have to come in at this angle for these ones. That's fine. I just wanted to show you, a couple of inputs that I'm going to be working with, but for the most part I've got all the factories up and running, because like I say, you've seen them running as fabric script mods. The actual process will be exactly the same for mCompany. In these particular mods there's no real difference there. It's just the fact that they're now going to be working with the mCompany, which allows me to then apply the mCompany graphic setup, which is what it's all about for me. I quite like that in the mods. So if we come into the trigger here, this is the one that I've put together for the moonshine one. So we've got the nice decal again there with the moonshine factory. Input is barrel, maize, sugarcane, water. We have our pallet spawn out, so that's working. And then our output's whiskey and rum. So all of those are now working as they were before as a fabric script run mod, but now we have them running as mCompany with the mCompany script, mCompany graphic script setup all working, and I think it looks great. It looks really good, I think. Now I didn't change the thing over here from sugar beet to sugarcane because, like I said, in whichever video it was, I more than likely would delete those. With the mCompany graphic running and whatever else, we only have these two triggers to work with, so it doesn't go into one, it's going to go into the other. But I think that looks pretty good. I possibly might change a few things there with the wording or whatever else, but for the most part I think it's you know, it's doing what it says it's going to do, yeah, I think it looks pretty good. So like I said before, I'm going to end the video here now. I've got all of my appropriate bits and pieces all set up where I want them to be, and it's now running all the appropriate scripts and whatever to work with mCompany graphic, and both of the mods do clearly work with the mCompany script. So yeah, I think it's been a success. It's actually gone quite well in the conversion from fabric script to mCompany, and then applying the mCompany graphic XMLs and all the other parts to get it all working. Liking it. I'm ShyWizard, thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.